probably heard all the headlines about Paul Pelosi's attack in his San Francisco mansion. That's the husband of Nancy Pelosi. And also, this is Paul Pelosi, who had, a drunken DUI, has done in criminal insider trading when it came to Wall Street. He's a financial tycoon goon. Same with her wife. That's why she's into politics and why she's Democratic fundraiser, and she's able to make millions of dollars and I guess buy it all on ice cream. I don't know. I guess that's what they do with their investments. Yeah. It's certainly not, giving the American people, healthcare, education, proper infrastructure, roads, making San Francisco better, helping the homelessness. It's definitely not encouraging notions like that. But Nancy Pelosi will go on late night television and show her pantry of all the delectable ice cream treats that she has. So there's a lot to be said about this, but I just want to break down some of the points that they're making about this. So they did a article here in CNN saying what we know about the Paul Pelosi attack. So I'm going to get into what they claim about this, and then we'll get into what's not being said about this, because this attack, while I do condemn, people attacking one another, obviously don't endorse this, there's a lot of holes in this story. There's a lot of holes that need to be addressed. And that's what people are trying to do, and they're trying to cover it up as make it some sort of a known conspiracy. But here's what they say about this. So it says, the man alleged to have attacked Paul Pelosi, husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, entered a not guilty plea Tuesday to all state charges during his initial appearance in San Francisco court. Dave DePape? We'll go with DePape. 42 is facing a litany of state charges, including attempted murder and assault with a deadly weapon, San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins said on Monday. These charges are in addition to the federal charges DePape faces, which include assault and attempted kidnapping. DePape waiving his right to a hearing within 10 days at his arraignment Tuesday, and Judge Diane Northway set a hearing for November 4th in San Francisco Superior Court to set a date for the preliminary hearing and bail settlement. No cameras were allowed in court for the arraignment. DePape's attorney, Adam Limpson, said outside the courtroom, there has been a lot of speculation, a lot of rumor, simply based on the nature of this case. So I'm not going to add to all the speculation by talking about the facts of this case right now. And why would that be? Why would they not bring up certain known facts about this? Why would they not bring that up? Oh, because there's too much speculation. Yeah, it's too controversial. People are talking about it. Well, shouldn't you clear the air and make it known about what exactly happened? No, we're just gonna add more fuel to the fire. Make people sound crazy towards one another. And nobody will know the exact story. What I will say is that there's a lot of speculation regarding vulnerability to misinformation. What I will say, so this is what he says though. I will say that there's been a lot of speculation regarding Mr. DePape's vulnerability to misinformation, and that's certainly something we are going to look into, and we were going to delve into as his defense team. But again, it would be premature to talk about that at this time. So that's the lawyer for the guy that supposedly attacked Paul Pelosi, is that he's vulnerable to misinformation. Jenkins has said that based on the DePape statements, it appears the attack was politically motivated. So, again, there's a lot to be said about this. There's a lot of holes that are not being discussed about this. Supposedly, from what we know, is that there was a deranged person that stormed into the mansion of Paul and Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco. Nancy was somehow in Washington. Paul Pelosi was back at home. And there was a deranged individual in his underwear holding a hammer and attacked Paul and demanding, where's Nancy, calling out her name. And supposedly he's linked to a bunch of conspiracy accounts, and this is somehow politically motivated, and somehow this is about MAGA and Republicans attacking the Pelosi's and so on and so forth. So that's what they're claiming. That's what they're claiming about all this. But someone put this together, and I thought, and this is really clever, because this is the stuff that they're not telling you about. This is the stuff that people have been questioning, and it just doesn't really add up. The stuff that they're saying about this case does not add up to the situation. So they say, if we were to believe the media, a rainbow flag waving nudist prostitute got up at 2 a.m. Friday morning. I didn't hear that he was a prostitute. Was he? I didn't think he was. But there is speculation, and this is part of the, theory, is that Paul Pelosi is known for paying for gay sex. There's a speculation around that when Nancy Pelosi is in Washington doing her speaker job, that Paul Pelosi is back home and has engaged multiple times in paying for gay prostitutes. There's speculation around that. I'm not confirming that, nor am I denying that. I'm just saying that there is talk about that. Decide to create 2 random websites with hundreds of posts about QAnon and Big Brother in the dead of night. So, what's interesting about this is on social media, particularly in Twitter, if you look at the Twitter universe and go to search up on Twitter, the Paul Pelosi attack, there's reporters that are trying to demonize podcasters. And particularly people like Jimmy Dore was somehow connected to this case. That somehow Jimmy Dore, who is known to be, bashful against the Democratic Party, and should be, because the Democratic Party is a pro-war, anti-worker party that has demonized, vilified, and, just completely tormented against their own voters and the general public. Somehow Jimmy Dore, they're trying to link Jimmy Dore in relation to this case, in relation to this deranged, crazy, rainbow flag prostitute that wanted to bash the heads of the Pelosi's. And there's been a couple of journalists that have been, trying to, make this manufactured consensus that Jimmy Dore somehow made a video that tempted people like that. And, we need to hold Jimmy Dore accountable, and trying to put those dots together, but didn't really add up. There was complete flaws in that, and it was pointed out. And then that journalist did not hold accountability, did not retracted that article, but in fact just kind of hid away. She just kind of wanted amnesty away from the fact that she threw a random comedian podcaster into this mix, because a random comedian podcaster is holding the establishment accountable. And because this is politically motivated, they're going to try and do whatever they can to try to demonize people that are against, a certain party. That's why they made this a politically motivated thing, instead of just a random strange individual that wanted to attack the Pelosi's. I don't know, but that's what they're speculating. Then stripped down to his underwear, grabbed a hammer, and jogged all the way to Nancy Pelosi's house. That kind of just, again, I even have my own questioning about this. So we're talking about the Pelosi's. Unfavorable candidates of politics, unfavorable people that after January 6th, after the chaos that went through it, after all the, fear-mongering campaign that, and, how the politicians feel even more threatened and scared by the general public, and how they had to demonize people and, created the forms of domestic terrorism and did all this stuff. And 2, after the January 6th hearings, correct me if I'm wrong, but after the January 6th hearings, did they not just pass a giant security bill for politicians like Nancy Pelosi? Wasn't that that was in proportion, and it was proposed with the Capitol Police funding, that they were supposed to hire a bunch of more security guards for certain politicians, especially in their own homes. I may be wrong about that. I don't know if that passed, but I know that was mentioned in the increase of the security budget for the Capitol after January 6th. So it kind of seems ridiculous that one random individual, who's apparently a rainbow flag nudist prostitute, in his underwear, jogged to Nancy Pelosi's house unseen, unheard of, and not being held captive by security police. I don't know. I don't know, but that's just what I don't understand that. And miraculously breached 2 layers of max security. So this is where, again, I'm suspicious about this. And miraculously breached 2 layers of max level Secret Service security designed to protect the 3rd most powerful person in the world with nothing but a hammer and some tighty whities. Like I said, how would a random individual, if he's just a crazed buffoon, how is he able to bypass 2 layers of security? Because I'm pretty sure the Pelosi's, even if they didn't, I don't know if they have actual Secret Service security at their mansion, but I'm pretty sure they have some, mainline security apparatus in their home. I'm pretty sure that they have taken high level steps to secure themselves in their mansion, especially in a place like San Francisco where just high crime rates and the fact that they've personally destroyed that entire city. I would imagine, they get a lot of criticism in San Francisco, just like they do in Washington. I don't understand how a person can just waltz right into that. It doesn't make sense to me. And finally shouted, "Where's Nancy?" before smacking Paul in the head with a hammer in front of cops without being absolutely riddled by bullets. So that's the other thing to point out. Cops saw the guy, he hit Paul Pelosi, and then didn't fire rounds until he actually left the mansion. Cops were right there on the scene and saw, witness in action, this guy that supposedly broke into the house, attacked Paul Pelosi, and didn't do anything until he left the mansion. So they claim. So this is why this is all big talk and all big conspiracy. Because even though this is a meme, there's stuff to be pointed out about this. That these are the questions that are not being answered in any report about this, and anywhere in the media that's covering about this. I love how they said this guy is basically Jason Bourne, apparently. Yeah, somehow he, broke in to the 3rd most powerful, woman in America, in tighty whities, able to bypass 2 levels of security with a hammer, attack her husband. Cops witnessed it, did not attack at hand, and was able to get away, but then also got detached by bullets and killed. Like, none of this actually makes sense. And also it says he could breach 2 levels of federal security in an assassination attempt, but didn't bother to check if Nancy was even in the country. Again, I know that they're trying to make this sound like a joke, but these are actual questions and concerns that I'm like thinking to myself, okay, something does not add up. This is not the full context of the story. Because how does one individual get into the most powerful homes in America, the house of the Speaker of the United States, was able to bypass all the security, all the cops, everything, to bash this guy's head open? And it just doesn't really add up to the situation. Now, here's something to also point out this too. Because they mentioned that this is politically motivated. And you can tell how politicized this really is, because after the Paul Pelosi attack, Rand Paul also had an incident where a crazed neighbor somehow got near him and attacked him. He suffered a bunch of broken ribs. He was hospitalized. And like I said, I condemn all this regardless of how they're clothed. I condemn, forms of violence towards anybody unless absolutely necessary. I condemn that to the next level, regardless of the person, regardless of anybody. But just watch how quickly this turned when they mentioned about Paul Pelosi and how terrifying and devastating and fearful this is. Watch how quickly they've done a complete 180 when it involves someone like Rand Paul. And here's MSNBC to prove that.
Today on the incident that left Senator Rand Paul with 6 broken ribs. This might be one of my favorite stories, although, of course, we don't want to clearly.
So I don't know if you just heard. That's oh, I forget her name already. I just had a brain fart there. Casey Hunt. That's Casey Hunt there of MSNBC. Literally just saying that this might be one of my favorite stories because it's Rand Paul getting attacked. So, minutes ago, you were just crying about Paul Pelosi getting attacked by a deranged rainbow flag prostitute wearing a hammer and tighty whities. You were all concerned and emotional for that. But Rand Paul gets attacked by a random individual, broken ribs, had to go to the hospital. Oh, it's my favorite story. It's my favorite story. You want to hear it again? That's just downright insane.
Today on the incident that left Senator Rand Paul with 6 broken ribs. This might be one of my favorite stories, although, of course, we don't want to clearly.
It's one of my favorite stories, but, of course, we don't actually want to condone violence. But it's one of my favorite stories because this is MSNBC, and, of course, we're always politically motivated. This is how deranged something like this goes. And like I said, I condemn it on all forms. I'm not a fan of Rand Paul. I'm not a fan of the Pelosi's. But if these stories are true, that they're getting attacked by random individuals and there is assault, I condemn it on all levels. I condemn it for any person, any individual, regardless. But the fact that this has become so highly politicized, the fact that MSNBC can say, how heartbroken they are about the Pelosi's, but then also say this is a great story because Rand Paul is getting attacked, and obviously Rand Paul is, kind of their counter opposite of what MSNBC is. It just shows. It shows how politicized this is, how nothing really adds up, that there's a lot of questions to be answered, and how this is just going to be another conspiracy that individuals are going to spend hours and hours trying to dig up and investigate because there's no substantial evidence to back the claims that the media is projecting. And the fact that they're, politicizing this makes us question even further. So that's the thing here. And I can't believe she just said that in the open. Let's hear it one more time.
Today on the incident that left Senator Rand Paul with 6 broken ribs. This might be one of my favorite stories, although, of course, we don't.
This might be one of my favorite stories, and she's trying to laugh about it. She's trying to laugh about the idea that another senator is getting attacked. After you just, had tears coming down your eyes about Paul Pelosi getting attacked by a rainbow flag prostitute, as they claim. You don't have the same sympathy for Rand Paul. Rand Paul is a human being. I disagree with his politics, obviously. I disagree with the Pelosi's. I disagree with Rand Paul on certain things. Except his stance about anti-war. I can at least acknowledge that Rand Paul may be one of those few individuals that I can actually sit down and talk about ending the wars. That may be the one thing I can have in common with him. But it just shows the complete 180. The complete 180 narcissistic, sociopathic, politicized notion of all this. And it gets even worse because this has become all social media now. So people like Keith Olbermann, who we know is a narcissistic sociopath himself. We know that out in the open. But these are just some of the tweets that have been coming out ever since after Paul Pelosi and now Rand Paul. This is what they're saying. So Keith Olbermann tweets, "Today we are all Rand Paul's neighbor." As he's claiming that this is some sort of victory, that this is some sort of rejoice, that, oh, because Rand Paul got attacked right after Paul Pelosi, that somehow this is all balancing the universe. What the hell are you talking about? What the hell is wrong with people? Honestly, what the hell is wrong with people? It's okay if it's Rand Paul getting assaulted by Paul Pelosi. Oh, the humanity. Oh, the heartbreak. Why aren't you having that sympathy regardless of anybody? I don't want anyone to get assaulted. Period. I don't want anyone to experience that. So why is it one side good and one side bad? Like, what's wrong with people? Honestly. Here's also this lady, Rachel Vidman. It says, "Dear Rand Paul's neighbor." I love the sophistication. She's trying to make it sound like a letter. "Dear Rand Paul's neighbor, we'll see you, bro. We see you." Are you kidding me? Are you friggin' kidding me? This is the mental insanity of, the blue check, blue anon people on Twitter. This is the ridiculousness of the elite liberal class. To even people like George Takei, which I thought a man of his nature, a man on Star Trek, which I always thought that, Star Trek was one of those great shows that showcased the humanity and the efforts of caring and love and compassion towards one another, especially people of different species. At least that's what I took of it. George Takei, this is what he said. "Admit it. These days we are all sort of wish we had been Rand Paul's neighbor." Hashtag punchline. How is that a punchline? Where's the joke in that? You basically just openly wanted to assault someone. That's a punchline? That's a joke to you? Oh, Rand Paul just got attacked. But, we still gotta feel bad for Paul Pelosi. Again, someone like him, like even George Takei, which I already know he's a bit of an elite liberalist, and there's a lot of tweets of him that just make me go cringe. But even someone like him, on a show like Star Trek, you think you would learn the lessons from the series. But I guess not. Because, I don't know, Trump or MAGA or something. Here's even Pelosi's daughter. Now, I'm assuming this is she has 2 daughters, right? I think she has 2 daughters. She has one that's the documentarian. And I think Christine, is the campaign strategist. I think this is the one that's appeared on interviews with her mother and stuff. Anyway, one of her daughters, Christine Pelosi, Rand Paul's neighbor, was right. About what? Right about what? Assaulting politicians is good? You just spent months on end. Doing hearing after hearing, manufacturing this fear campaign about people storming the Capitol. You did this whole entire fear campaign about randomized individuals that stormed into the Capitol, took a bunch of selfies with cops, and broke into your mother's office to read her mail. You did a whole fear campaign about it, and how dangerous and how sociopathic that is, and how these people need to be held accountable. And now here we are today, proclaiming that Rand Paul, his neighbor, deliberately assaulting Rand Paul, was some sort of benefit. Do you see the mental gymnastics that these people are doing? These crazed, craven individuals that have no control. They have no understanding. And are ridiculously tweeting this crap out. Like, just how stupid this really is. And that's coming from Nancy Pelosi's own daughter saying something like this. And then even Rand Paul chimed in on this. Rand Paul, who was also assaulted, and everybody's cheerleading for. Everyone's cheerleading for Rand Paul to get assaulted, but Paul Pelosi, we have to be, so heartbroken about it. Again, you see how politicized and divided they try to make this. They do this purposely. It's manufactured dissent to try to make people believe that, because it's a mega Republican or someone on the opposing side, it's okay. Assault's okay as long as it's for the right person. And Rand Paul, he makes an excellent point here. Rand Paul makes an excellent point. No one deserves to be assaulted. Period. Unlike Nancy Pelosi's daughter, who celebrated my assault, I condemn this attack and wish Mr. Pelosi a speedy recovery. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Now, I don't know if he's actually 100% sincere on that. So, that could be in question, but the least you can do is condemn all acts of assault. All attack on any person. That's all you have to do. But these craven, liberal, boutique, leftist elitists that are so tied to their own political structures that they don't fully understand what they're saying out in the open and making themselves so cringy and so craven and disturbing. And they're saying it out in the open. They're openly engaging and celebrating the idea that an individual getting attacked is somehow a good thing because that individual was Rand Paul. And all they had to do was exactly what Rand Paul did. All Rand Paul said was, I condemn this on all levels, and I feel bad for what happened to Pelosi and myself. That's all you have to do. But there's people that take it to that step. There's people that take it to that level of politicized BS and just make it even worse to the situation. And here's even this. So, a guy by the name of Doug Powers, he retweeted what The Atlantic said about this. The Atlantic saying, laughing over hammer attack on an old man, the GOP has completed its transition from a political party to a brutal mob. So they're blaming this on the Republicans. They're blaming this on GOP members. They're blaming this on MAGA. They're blaming this on Jimmy Dore. They're trying to blame it on individuals like me, who are skeptical of this notion and are questioning about this. They're blaming individuals for, laughing about this or making jokes about this. We're not making jokes. We're just trying to figure out the story and trying to figure out if it's true or not, because there's a lot of plot holes. There's a lot of stuff that does not add up to the investigation and how there's really no investigation. Now they're saying that there's some sort of video of the perpetrator going into the mansion. No video has been released, but that's what they're claiming. Doug Powers pointed this out. This will be applauded by all the people who wanted to have a ticker tape parade honoring Rand Paul's neighbor. So, do you see how this is all projection? Do you see how all this politicized banter that, liberal elitists, the boutique lefties that are on Twitter proclaiming their love for Rand Paul's neighbor are exactly doing the same thing that they're claiming the GOP is doing to Paul Pelosi? Do you see how ridiculous this all is? Do you see how ridiculous and it doesn't help their cases whatsoever? It doesn't help Paul Pelosi. It doesn't help Rand Paul. It doesn't help the crime. It doesn't help solve anything, except for the fact that now you're just lashing out on people that are on opposing sides of you or a different point of view because you're deep-rooted in this political cult. You're deep-rooted in this political cult. You think it's your destiny. You think you're doing good service by doing something like this. And Rand Paul had to be the strong man, had to be the person on the high road to mention and say, hey, I condemn this on all levels. Which should be the common consensus for everybody. Every single person, you would think, have that same common consensus of, condemning violent acts towards one another on all levels, regardless of how they're clothed. But they don't do that. They are so deeply entrenched in their own political cult-like behaviors that they're attacking, random individuals and highly politicizing this and making this sound like it's somehow related to the Trumps and somehow related to this and somehow, connected. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's just outright projection, outright banter. It is just downright disgusting. It just shows how deeply entrenched and literally brainwashed these people are. The fact that Keith Olbermann is praising the attack on Rand Paul after, I'm sure there's probably a tweet of him saying that the attack on Paul Pelosi was bad. Like, these individuals, I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know why they would do something like this, but it shows the entrenchment of what political cults can do to you. That they're now trying to cookie cutter the ideas of it's okay to assault someone and violently attack them and send them to a hospital as long as it's the right person. That's what a craven, narcissistic, sociopathic individual would say. Those are the kind of people you would see in a mental asylum with straitjackets. Then now we have hundreds out in the open and proclaiming this on social media.